In the last class, we had started with the source of agricultural credit in India. In that, we had studied about non-institutional and institutional money lenders. In institutional, we were studying about the rural cooperative credit institutions. So let us begin with this and let us study further. Rural cooperative credit institutions. The rural credit cooperative may be further divided into short-term credit cooperatives and long-term credit cooperatives. So, in that we have two short-term and long-term. First is short-term. Short-term credit cooperatives. It provides short-term rural credit and are based on a three-tier structure as follows: primary agricultural credit societies, district central cooperative banks, and state cooperative banks. So in this we have three different sectors, which is first is the small, that is primary, then we have the district, and then we have the state. So this is about the rural credit cooperative society. In short term, we have these three concepts. Then next we have the long-term credit cooperatives, which in long-term credit cooperatives, these cooperatives meet long-term credit requirements of the farmers and are organized at two levels: primary cooperative agricultural and rural development banks. These banks operate at the village level as on an independent unit. So these units are generally independent units, and they work with their own speed and on their own levels at the village level. Next, state cooperative agriculture and rural development bank. These banks operate at state level through their branches in different villages. So, mm, this banks operate at state level through their branches. Means what? Whatever branches they have at different villages, they work through them. Then next we have commercial banks. Commercial banks, CBs, provide rural credit by establishing their branches in the rural areas. Regional rural banks are the specialized banks established under the RRB Act 1976 to cater the needs of rural poor. RRBs are set up as rural oriented commercial banks with the low cost profile of cooperatives, but with the professional discipline and modern outlook of commercial banks. So, what do you mean by this? Commercial, they are established for rural credit by establishing the branches in rural areas. Then for regional rural banks, these are the specialized banks which are established under the RRB Act, that is Rural Regional Bank Act 1976, and they are set up for the purpose to bring the rural poor, and also for the commercial banks with low cost profile of cooperatives, but with the professional discipline and modern outlook of commercial banks. Basically, these all are different types of bank which provide for agricultural loans or agricultural credit which is required to the farmers. So you need to just understand that these are different banks which are established. Now, after this, we have microfinance (MFIs). Banks offer concessional interest rates for the rural credit. However, small farmers are unable to access them because of borrower unfriendly products and procedures, inflexibility and delay, and high transaction costs, both legitimate and illegal. Thus, non-government organizations (NGOs) are providing alternate means to enhance access to credit by the poor since mid 70s. So microfinance means what? This is a small finance which is provided to the farmers for the purpose for them to access, and these are non-cooperative organizations who come forward to help the banks, or to help the farmers for with the purpose of providing credit to the farmers, and seeing to it that they can be helpful to the farmer for buying the products and procedures. They are also little bit high transaction cost, but uh, they are illegal also. So this was about microfinance institutions. So with this we come to the end of this chapter. Now in the next chapter we shall be studying about population in India. So, what is the population in India? As we know, India ranks at a higher position when it comes to population. So, as India is a developing country, it is very important to see to it that the population of India is being taken care of properly. So, let's see what all is happening. So, introduction. India is a developing country. The rate of economic development of a country depends on its quantitative and qualitative growth, which can be measured in terms of population, national income, per capita income, etc. So, what does this mean? That income of India can be classified on the basis or measured on the basis of population, national income, per capita income. These three concepts. Population refers to the number of people living in an area at a given point of time. Population of India is measured once in every 10 years through a census survey. According to 2011 census, India's population was 121.02 crores. India ranks second in the world next to China. India has 17.5% of the world population, but it occupies only 2.4% of the world's land area. Population statistics are compiled and published by the Office of the Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India. So, see, from the 2011 census, it was 121.02 crores, which was very much earlier. Now it is 2020. So, by this time, the population has been more increased. And since India occupies 70.5% of the world population, but occupies only 2.4% of the world's land area. So, trends in population growth. Now we shall be seeing about the population growth. How the population has been growing since the 1911. India's population is very large in size. It is growing rapidly. Information regarding the size structure and other characteristics of India's population is obtained through census survey. Table 6.1 reviews the trends of population growth. So here we can understand, see, after every 10 years, they have taken population census, which has been showing an growing trend and not a declining trend. So we can see that, and we can understand that as years are passing by, the population is increasing and increasing. Hence, India ranks second in the position. Marginal decline in population 1911 to 1921. There was a marginal decline in the population from 25.2 crores to 9 to 1911 to 25.1 crores to 1921. Thus there was negative growth rate due to spread of epidemics such as influenza, cholera, plague, malaria, etc. So there was a marginal decline in the population, and due to the spread of disease such as influenza, then cholera and plague and malaria. So these were the diseases which had spread during those times. Now we can see even in 2020 the population must have decreased because of the pandemic which is going on. Then next, year of the Great Divide, the decidal decidal growth of population was negative during the period 1911 to 1921. After 1921, there was a continuous increase in population. Hence, the then Census Commissioner of India had designated the year 1921 as the year of Great Divide. So, due to this decadal means what, due to there was a reduce in the population, and after 1921 we have been seeing only an increase in the population, so it is called the year of great divide. Next we have positive growth rate. 1931 to 1941, India recorded an annual growth rate around 1 to 1.3% during this period. So during these years also India has recorded a higher growth in the population. Then increase in population 1951 onwards. So we were seeing about the population explosion in 1970. Sorry, increase in population 1951 onwards. Between 1951 to 1971, population increased from 3.36.1 crores to 54.8 crores. This shows that after independence there was a tremendous rise in population. So we have been seeing for the year 1951 to 1971, and in this period we have seen an increase from 36.1 crores to 54.8 crores. So this is a very drastic change which we are seeing, and this shows that after independence there was a tremendous rise in the Indian population. Population explosion 1971 to 2001. During this period, India experienced population explosion because during these 3 decades, annual population growth rate was more than 2%. So, in the period, the during this period, from 1971 to 2001, India experienced a population explosion because during these 3 decades, there was a growth rate of more than 2% in the population of India. Now, next after this, we have about the slowdown in population growth rate 2001 to 2011. There is an indication of slowdown in growth rate of population from 1.9% from 1.9% in 2001 to 1.4% in 2011. This shows that the average annual growth rate is declining. So, there was a rapid slowdown in the growth rate of population from the year 2001 to 2011. So, this shows that there can be a population decline where if the government rules and regulations are properly implied and people follow the rules that are decided. Next, we have theories of population growth. First one, Malthusianism uh, theory of population growth. Thomas Robert Malthus propounded this theory in his book An Essay on the Principle of Population in 1798 and modified some of its conclusions in the next edition in 1803. According to Malthus, population increases in geometric progression 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. And food supply increases in arithmetic progression 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. This creates an imbalance between population and food supply. Malthus states that correction of the imbalance can be done by introducing preventive checks such as late marriage, moral restraint, etc. He also mentions about positive and natural checks such as natural calamities. Natural checks operate and wash out the excess population and thus balance is maintained. However, preventive checks are more dependable out of the two. So, this was a theory propounded, means a theory which was found by Thomas Robert Malthus, and in his book, An Essay on the Principle of Population, in the year 1798. And he says that the progression, that is the geometric progression, is 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and in the food supply increases in 1, 2, 3, 4. So this creates an imbalance between population and food supply. So there are many people who face a lot of losses, but due to technology and due to changes in the atmospheric condition, due to the various new technologies introduced, generally now people have the gap between this has been reduced a little bit. So, concepts related to population growth. Now, what are the different concepts related to population growth? In which first one we have birth rate. Birth rate means the number of births occurring per thousand of the living population during a year. It is known as the fertility rate. So, the number of people who are taking birth every year, every year is per thousand of the living population during a year. Then how do we calculate death rate? The number of deaths per thousand of the living population during a year is called death rate. It is also called mortality rate. So remember, birth rate is called as fertility rate and death rate is called as mortality rate. Survival rate. The difference between the birth rate and the death rate is known as the survival rate. This shows the actual rate of population growth. Survival rate is equal to birth rate minus death rate. So how do you calculate survival rate? So you calculate the number of birth rate, then you deduct it from death rate, you get the exact survival rate. Means what? The people who are alive and who are surviving in the year. Now, theory of demographic transition. The theory of demographic transition was given by A.J. Cole and E.M. Hoover in the book Population Growth and Development in Low-Income Countries. According to this theory, every country passes through three stages of demographic transition. This theory explains the transition from high to low birth rates and death rates. So his theory states that every country passes through three stages of demographic transitions. Means what? That from high to low birth rates and death rates. So this is something which goes on if there are natural calamities, or if there is pandemic or anything like that. There is generally a high death rate and a low birth rate. So this theory is applied in such cases. Then next we have stages of demographic transition. The theory shows a three-stage relationship between economic development and population growth. According to this theory, as a country advances economically, its population passes through three stages as follows. So let's go through the demographic transition, and we shall be studying in this three stages. In that first stage, we have low growth of population. So it is pre-industrialized and primitive stage. The birth rate and death rate both are very high. All underdeveloped countries have passed through this stage. Social and economic conditions such as mass illiteracy, superstitions, mass poverty, orthodoxy, lack of medical facilities, spread of epidemics, etc., led to low growth of population before 1921. India was in the first stage of demographic transition. So what do you mean by this? First stage means low growth of population. There is a in this stage, this is called as the primitive stage. So the birth rate and the death rate both are high in the underdeveloped countries. Why they are high? The reason of this is not having proper medical facilities, illiteracy of the people, superstition. There were many superstitions in the earlier times saying that if the husband died, even the wife was burned alive. Then there are medical facilities which were not available. Even though India is now having one of the strongest medical facilities, still it is said that the medical facilities in the earlier time was less. Then there are many superstition. People believe in a superstition, orthodoxy, or then lack of spread of epidemics, etc., lead to a growth of population. Before 1921, India was in the first stage. So India was in the first stage according to the demographic transition. Now let's study about the second stage. Now, second stage is about the high growth of population. Introduction of industrialization and beginning of the process of economic development is the indicator of the second stage. Due to economic development, death rate started falling rapidly, but the birth rate continued to remain high. This led to population explosion. All developing countries, including India, are in the second stage of demographic transition. India is on the verge of entering into the third stage. So, second, in this we have high growth of population. This is high growth of population because there is economic development, and the death rate starts falling because of this, and this leads to population explosion. All the developing countries, even India, are in the second stage, but soon they shall enter into the third stage. Now, what is third stage? Let's study about third stage. What do you mean? Third stage, low or stable population. Rapid industrialization and urbanization result in the spread of education and consciousness about standard of living. With economic development, both birth rate as well as death rate tend to decline. All India developed countries are in this stage. So, in this chart, we can see below, say, table 6.2, we can see how birth rate and death rate have changed over the period of time. So, we have till 2011. Now, in 2021, again, we shall have the count of birth and death rates in the family. So, we shall again come to know that exact rate of birth and death in the family. So, you can see over the period earlier in 1901, there was 49.2% birth rate and 42.6% death rate. So these went hand in hand. In 2011, we can see there is only 20.9% of birth rate and only death rate is 7.48%. So this is according to the census which were carried out in 2011. Now the next census will be carried out in the year 2021. So they have shown a proper demographic transition, that how the birth rate death rate have been increasing decreasing over the period of time. And in case of a pandemic or emergency situations, we have seen that there is a increase in the death rate. So this was about the three stages which we studied. Now we should be starting with next topic, that is population explosion in India. See how in 1961 they have shown through a picture that how the population has increased over the time. In the first picture, you can see that there were only 5 to 6 people in a car. Now you can see there are more than 20 people who are sitting on the car. So this is what is population explosion. Perfectly explained example. So let us see. Population explosion is a situation where the growth of population is faster than the growth and development of the economy. Population explosion in India is due to a high birth rate followed by a low death rate, because there has been a change in the technology, and since we have been seeing development in various stages, so we can say that there is a high birth rate and low death rate because the medical facilities have changed, people's standard of living has changed, then the population which is coming is getting educated, illiterate people are very few illiterate people. So this all reasons are there that we have a high birth rate but low death rate. Now, next we have causes of high birth rate. First is illiteracy. The percentage of illiterates in the country is reasonably high. The attitude of illiterate people towards marriage and childbirth has remained rigid. Low level of literacy among females is also responsible for high birth rate. So, as we know that literacy is one of the most important reason for the causes of high birth rate, since people are uneducated, and since this condition of childbirth has remained rigid over the period of time, so it is very important to have certain changes in this situation. So there is a high birth rate, and since many females are illiterate, they don't understand much, so there is a level of high birth rate. Next we have universalization of marriage. So in India, marriage is considered as both religious and social obligation. Even though the spread of education, the attitude of people towards marriage remains unchanged at a large. So this is universalization of marriage. Then next we have age of marriage. In India, the legal age of marriage is relatively lower compared to other countries. It is 18 years for female and 21 years for males. Low age of marriage has also resulted in a high birth rate. So the marriage age for the males is 21 years and for females is 18 years. So in this age still people are trying to educate themselves, still they are getting mature, so there are chances of high growth rate. Next we have preference for male child. Indian parents are opting to continue having children until they have a son or desired number of sons. This is known as son meta preference. So there are still people who believe that having a son is very important, so they have till the time they have a desired number of sons, or till the time they give birth to a son, they keep on having number of children. Next, joint family system. There is no individual financial responsibility in a joint family. Hence, existence of joint family is also responsible for high birth rate in India. So, joint family system, there is no individual financial responsibility. So, the responsibility in a joint family is divided between all the members. Hence, it hardly matters how many children each of them has. So, there is a this is one of the causes for the high birth rate in India. Then dependence on agriculture. Indian agriculture is driven by manpower. In India, there is over dependence on agriculture. More a number of children in the family implies more labor force available for field work. So here it is said that the more the number of children, the more the number of children available, or the more the number of labor force available for the people at the field work. That is, they becoming farmers. Then next we have widespread poverty. Poor people prefer large families because they feel that more children means greater economic support. So, poverty being one of the important problems, poor people prefer to have large families, and they feel that more the number of children, greater support to the family. So this was about causes of high birth rate. We have one more, which is lack of awareness about family welfare services. Most of the people are ignorant about the availability of various means and techniques of family planning. So there is a lack of awareness about family welfare services which are there, and people are ignorant about the availability of various means and techniques for family planning. So these are the various causes for high birth rate. Now, next we shall be starting with the causes of low death rate in India. So we shall be starting about causes of low death rate in India in the next class, and we shall be studying about this in detail.